Daredevil, also known as Matt Murdock, occupies a unique space in the superhero genre. While many superheroes are defined by their powers, costumes, or rogues galleries, Daredevil's identity is deeply intertwined with his moral compass and, most importantly, his Catholic faith. For Matt Murdock, religion is not just a background detail, it is a central pillar of his character, informing his decisions, shaping his relationships, and providing a lens through which his stories explore themes of morality, redemption, guilt, and justice. His faith, however, is not a source of peace, it is a battleground, as he wrestles with his beliefs in a world that forces him to make morally ambiguous choices. To fully understand Daredevil's faith and how it shapes his narrative, it's crucial to explore its roots, its impact on his role as a hero, its thematic resonance across his storylines, and its significance within the broader context of comic book storytelling. The roots of faith in Hell's Kitchen. Matt Murdock's Catholicism is inseparable from his origins in Hell's Kitchen, a harsh and crime-ridden neighborhood in New York City. Raised by his father, Jack Murdock, a struggling boxer, Matt was taught the values of hard work, resilience, and justice from an early age. The Catholic Church provided him with a moral framework that balanced the violence and chaos surrounding him. It offered structure, community, and a sense of purpose, instilling in him the idea that even in a broken world, one could strive for righteousness. The absence of Matt's mother, who left the family to join a convent, further complicated his relationship with faith. While her departure planted seeds of resentment, her later reappearance as Sister Maggie became a key influence on Matt's understanding of sacrifice and service. This duality, anger at abandonment versus respect for selflessness, reflects the tension that defines much of his relationship with Catholicism. This upbringing laid the foundation for Matt's lifelong battle to reconcile his personal desires with his duty to others. It is the church that taught him the value of sacrifice and forgiveness, and it is these principles that would later become central to his dual identities as both a lawyer and a vigilante. Faith and the duality of Daredevil. Matt Murdock's Catholic faith is the bridge between his two identities, the attorney who fights for justice within the confines of the legal system and the vigilante who operates outside it. The tension between these two roles mirrors his internal struggle to reconcile his faith with his actions. Catholicism emphasizes forgiveness, compassion, and the sanctity of life, principles that are at odds with the violence Daredevil employs to protect his city. Yet it is precisely this tension that makes Matt one of the most human and relatable superheroes in Marvel's roster. The lawyer. As a lawyer, Matt operates as an idealist, believing in the rule of law and the possibility of justice within the system. His work with Fergie Nelson at their law firm, Nelson and Murdock, often puts him on the side of the marginalized, the disenfranchised, and the oppressed. This aligns with Catholic teachings on social justice, which emphasize the protection of the vulnerable and the pursuit of fairness. However, the legal system often fails, particularly in a city as corrupt as Hell's Kitchen. When criminals like Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, manipulate the law to evade justice, Matt is forced to confront the limits of his profession. These failures push him toward his darker and more direct identity as Daredevil. The vigilante. As Daredevil, Matt takes justice into his own hands. He is relentless in his pursuit of criminals, often engaging in brutal hand-to-hand combat. While he adheres to a strict no-kill policy, his reliance on violence conflicts with his religious values. Every punch, every broken bone weighs on him, as he questions whether he is crossing a moral line. This duality creates a recurring cycle of guilt and penance. Matt often seeks absolution in the confessional, where he lays bare his fears and doubts. His confessions reveal a man who is deeply aware of his flaws yet determined to do what he believes is right. This self-awareness and humility are key aspects of his character, making him both a hero and a deeply flawed human being. Exploring faith through key storylines. Daredevil's Catholicism has been a recurring theme in some of his most iconic storylines. These narratives delve into the complexities of faith, morality, and identity, using Matt's beliefs as a lens to explore broader philosophical and theological questions. 1. Born Again, Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. Born Again is often regarded as the definitive Daredevil story, not just for its exploration of Matt's resilience but for its profound use of religious symbolism. The story begins with Matt's life falling apart after the Kingpin learns his secret identity. Stripped of his job, home, and sense of purpose, Matt descends into despair. He is betrayed, beaten, and left for dead, but through sheer will and faith, he rises again, reborn as Daredevil. The story parallels the Passion of Christ, with Matt enduring a series of trials that test his faith and humanity. His eventual triumph is not just physical but spiritual, as he reclaims his identity and finds redemption in the process. The narrative emphasizes the power of faith to provide hope and strength even in the darkest of times. 2. Guardian Devil, Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada. In this storyline, Daredevil is thrust into a battle between good and evil when a mysterious woman leaves him with a baby she claims is the Savior, or the Antichrist. The arc explores themes of blind faith, doubt, and the weight of moral responsibility. Matt is torn between his instincts as a protector and his fears of making the wrong choice. The story forces him to confront the idea that faith is not about certainty but about trust, even in the face of overwhelming doubt. 3. Shadowland. Shadowland represents one of Daredevil's darkest chapters. Possessed by the demonic entity known as the Beast, Matt descends into tyranny, using lethal force and rejecting the moral code that once defined him. This storyline serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of losing oneself to anger and power. Ultimately, it is his faith, and the intervention of his friends, that allows him to overcome the Beast, underscoring the importance of redemption and community. Recurring themes in Daredevil's faith. 1. Guilt and penance. Guilt is perhaps the most defining aspect of Matt's Catholicism. He carries the weight of every failure, every moral compromise, and every act of violence. This guilt drives him to seek penance, not just through confession but through his actions as Daredevil. Every night he spends protecting Hell's Kitchen is an act of atonement, by way of making amends for his perceived shortcomings. 2. Sacrifice. Matt's life is defined by sacrifice. He sacrifices his personal happiness, his relationships, then often his physical well-being to serve others. This mirrors the Christ-like ideal of selflessness central to Catholic teachings. 3. Redemption. Daredevil's stories often focus on redemption, not just for Matt but for those around him. He believes in the possibility of change, even for those who seem beyond saving. This belief is tested time and again, particularly in his interactions with characters like Wilson Fisk and Elektra. 4. Religious imagery. From crucifixes to stained glass windows, Daredevil's stories are filled with religious imagery that underscores the spiritual weight of his journey. These visuals serve as reminders of his faith and the moral dilemmas he faces. Cultural and literary significance. Daredevil's portrayal as a devout Catholic sets him apart in the superhero genre. While many heroes operate within a moral framework, Matt's faith provides a depth and complexity rarely seen in comic books. His stories tackle philosophical and theological questions that resonate with readers of all backgrounds, offering a nuanced exploration of what it means to live a moral life in an imperfect world. Moreover, Daredevil's faith humanizes him. He is not a godlike figure or a flawless hero, he is a man struggling to reconcile his ideals with the realities of his life. This relatability makes him one of Marvel's most enduring and compelling characters. Conclusion. Daredevil's Catholic faith is more than a character trait, it is the lens through which his entire narrative is framed. It shapes his actions, defines his struggles, and gives his stories a depth that elevates them beyond standard superhero fare. Matt Murdock's journey is not about perfection but about perseverance. His faith is not a source of certainty but of strength in the face of doubt. In a genre often defined by spectacle, Daredevil stands out as a profoundly human hero, one whose battles are as much internal as they are external. Through him, readers are reminded that even in the darkest times, faith, however imperfect, can light the way. This is Daredevil, the man without fear, and a man of faith. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into one of Marvel's most profound characters. If you enjoyed this exploration of Daredevil's Catholicism and its impact on his stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to African Reads Comics. Until next time, keep reading, keep exploring, and remember, even in darkness, there is always light.